This year of 2018 has been an amazing year for smartphones. From the monstrous camera setup of the Huawei P20 Pro, to the bezel-less and notchless design of Vivo Nex and Oppo Find X, to the endless list of features of the Note 9. This year has produced some of the most amazing and innovative smartphones of all time. But nothing generated as much hype as this phone, the Poco F1. The set of features it has brought to the market at a price point of around 20,000 rupees or $300 has completely changed the game and also people's expectations from a budget or a mid-range phone. This phone went on sale on the 29th of August and I have been using it ever since. It has been over a month since then, and now it's time to review the Poco F1 and find out whether it deserves all the hype or not. So without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so instead of a traditional review where I tell you about the design, display, camera, performance and battery, I'll share with you all the things that I really like about this phone, the things that I don't like about this phone, and the things that could have been better implemented in this phone, all things considered. So, first let's start with all the things that I really like about this phone. First and the most obvious one is the performance. Snapdragon 845 is the current king of the Android world. Pair that with 6 or 8 gigs of super fast and efficient LPDDR4X RAM and also super fast UFS 2.1 storage, cool it all with fancy liquid cooling tech, and you get an excellent performance package that can sustain peak performance for longer duration. All this performance for around 20,000 rupees is absolute insanity. Benchmark scores are off the charts. Games like PUBG and Asphalt 9 run with all the fancy visual effects at a consistent and smooth frame rate. So if you're looking for maximum performance at minimum price, look no further. Next, let's talk about the battery life. This thing packs in an amazing 4000 mAh battery inside. Add a USB Type-C port, Quick Charge 3.0 support, and an 18-watt charger in the box, and you basically get a phone that will easily last you all day, and then when it's about to die, just connect it to the fast charger using a reversible USB Type-C cable, and this phone is up and running in no time. Now let's talk about the cameras on this phone. Normally, with performance-oriented or gaming phones, camera is the area where compromise is made most of the time, but not here. This phone packs in some serious camera hardware, especially for its price. The primary camera has a 12 megapixel sensor with a large 1.4 micron pixel size. It also has a wide aperture at f1.9. A combination of large pixel size and wide aperture can, in theory, provide better low light shots compared to what you normally get at this price point. There is also a 5 megapixel secondary camera for providing depth information for portrait shots. I have taken all these shots in auto mode with auto HDR turned on and AI scene recognition turned off. So let's check out the samples. In outdoor good light conditions, this phone does a really good job. The images are sharp and detailed, there is good dynamic range even when shooting into the sun, and the colors are quite lively and vibrant. Even the outdoor macro shots are very impressive. When we take it indoors, again it produces pleasing results, and when there is less than ideal light, it still manages to preserve the details in the images without introducing a lot of noise. Same is the case with indoor macro shots. Now, when it comes to low light shots, which is very challenging for even the best smartphone cameras, the results produced by the Poco F1 are quite respectable. Definitely better than most budget and mid-range phones, but nowhere near a true flagship like the Note 9. Overall, the Poco phone's primary camera is quite impressive, but it does have a few quirks, like sometimes the non-HDR shots have better dynamic range compared to the HDR shots. and the AI scene recognition can sometimes make the photos look too saturated. But more often than not, you'll end up with a good looking photo in any lighting condition with this camera. In the front, this phone has a massive 20 megapixel camera with f2.0 aperture. This is one of the best cameras, not just in its price range, but in any price range. It's really that good. In the video department, this phone can record 1080p videos at 30 fps with EIS. It can also record 1080p 240 fps slow-mo videos and 30 fps 4K videos, but without any stabilization. This phone also has dual pixel autofocus, which is basically the gold standard for autofocusing system, and it locks the focus every single time, and that too in an instant. So overall, the camera package is definitely one of its strong points. Now let's talk about the sound. This phone is pretty solid in the sound department. The main speaker is quite loud and clear. The earpiece is also used as a speaker here, but its audio output is nowhere near as loud as the primary speaker. This phone has a headphone jack, and the sound quality via headphones is quite impressive, with good volume, good bass, as well as good soundstage. So overall, I'm very happy with its sound. Now let's talk about the biometric authentication system on this phone. This phone has a rear-mounted fingerprint scanner, which is incredibly fast and accurate. In the front, along with the camera, there is also an infrared face scanner, and they work together to provide very fast face recognition that works even in the dark. Okay, so now let's talk about MIUI features and its future prospects. While there are a few issues with MIUI that we'll discuss later, there are many positives as well. MIUI is very polished and feature-packed. It has a consistent design throughout the user interface, as well as an extensive theme library. And this phone is soon going to be updated to MIUI 10, which is even better and very promising. Lastly, let's talk about the pricing of different variants of this phone. The pricing of this phone compared to the features on offer is just way too good. Yes, compromises have been made to reach this pricing, but still, this phone is easily the best value for money smartphone in the market right now. And you get a lot of choices with regards to the RAM and built-in storage, as well as colors. I really appreciate the amount of choices provided here. Now let's move to the things that I don't like about this phone. First and foremost is the infamous notch. I'm not a big fan of giant notches like the one on this phone. I know some people like it, but aesthetics aside, this notch has a negative impact on the usefulness of the status bar. Compared to the Redmi Note 5 Pro with the same MIUI, here you cannot see notification badges, battery percentage, network speed, and so on, making it almost useless. I would rather have a slightly smaller 6-inch screen with no notch than a 6.2-inch screen with a notch, as the extra 0.2-inch screen provides no extra utility. And if you have to have a notch, make it like the Vivo V11 Pro, where the notch doesn't have any negative impact on the phone's utility. Now let's talk about the design, or lack thereof. As I was saying earlier, some compromises had to be made in this phone, and this is where it's most evident. Yes, the build is plastic, but that doesn't bother me much, as the phone feels sturdy. What does bother me, however, is how bland the design is. Yes, this blue color adds a bit of spark to the design, but when you compare it with something like the Vivo V11 Pro, which is available in the same price range, this phone's design feels very dated and boring. Coming back to MIUI, there are many things that I don't like about MIUI. The biggest one is memory management. Irrespective of whether you are using a 6GB or 8GB variant of this phone, your phone will behave as if it only has 2 to 3GB of RAM. It is extremely aggressive with closing background apps and will not hold more than 10 apps at a time. This results in frequent reloading of apps, which is extremely disappointing considering how powerful this phone is. Another issue with MIUI is ads. It's getting a bit too much. You have to see ads in more or less every built-in app, which is quite irritating. Xiaomi also likes to take a long time to update their phones to the latest version of Android. So yes, MIUI has a lot of issues that needs fixing. Now let's talk about the things that could have been better in this phone. First is the screen. Overall, the screen is pretty good with good brightness, contrast and vibrant colors. But there is a noticeable amount of light bleeding going on at the bottom. Honestly, even many entry-level phones don't have light bleeding issues nowadays, so having this issue on a mid-range phone like this was kind of disappointing. Also, the corners of this screen are way too rounded for my liking, and coupled with how MIUI handles the space around the notch in landscape mode, you basically end up with this weird screen which has two rounded corners and two sharp corners. Looks awkward. Another thing that could have been better is the video playback in streaming apps like Netflix and Amazon Prime Video. This phone is only Widevine L3 certified instead of L1, so it won't support HD playback in Netflix and Amazon Prime Video. The maximum resolution that is supported is 540p, which is just 1/4 of the screen resolution of this phone. But given the size of the screen, it won't make a massive difference. But yes, it's definitely a drawback. Okay, so those are the things that could have been better in the Poco F1. Overall, the Poco F1 is an excellent phone with an excellent pricing. This phone is by no means perfect and it has its share of compromises, but the positives here overwhelmingly outweigh the negatives. This phone is an ideal choice for someone who wants a performance-oriented device with great battery life and dependable cameras at a very attractive price. But if you like watching a lot of high-quality videos on your phone or prefer a phone with a stylish head-turning design, this phone isn't bad, but there are definitely better options out there. So finally, is the Poco F1 worth all the hype? Well, in my opinion, it definitely is worth the hype, as it is very good at all the aspects that make a smartphone great. So that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel down below. Thanks for watching.